our presentation here on the stand at Montreaux. And that's a little reminder there of some of the work produced by Paintbox users around the world over the last decade. And as that reel shows, it's easy to see why Paintbox really has dominated the world of television and video graphics in the last 10 years or so. For me as a designer, it continues to offer the best in creativity and flexibility just by simply being the best. Well, good news here at Montreaux that the best has just got better in the form of our all-new high-speed Paintbox Express. And what we're going to do is spend the next moment or so just showing you exactly how that manifests itself. Why is it called Paintbox Express, first of all? Well, it uses all new technology and disk access. And if I start by just doing a quick browse through the directory of the system, our new 4 GB hard drive, so every Paintbox comes with storage for 4,000 pictures. And look at the speed with which I can browse these on the disk. Fetching an image down is simply a point and press. And again, look at the speed with which we can access these. I can scroll the pen round and they come down in something like 0.2 of a second, I'm told. Very, very fast indeed. Okay, well, of course, it's not just bringing images down from disk and saving them again, which makes Paintbox lightning fast. It is, of course, the user interface, the way that it allows me as the designer to actually get around the system and produce the goods. So what we're going to do is to spend a few moments looking at Paintbox in the hands, perhaps of a broadcaster, how a broadcaster might use it. We have been kindly lent some material by BBC World Service. They have a lot of Paintboxes producing graphics. What we're going to do is to see the way that Paintbox Express may affect, for example, their productivity and the type of work they produce. Every morning, of course, for their news program, they produce a lot of newspaper graphics. A look at the morning papers, if you like. Standard background with a grab from a rostrum that goes in there. And as I said, they may be asked to produce a dozen or so of these for a morning news program. So we'll start with Paintbox Express and load down some of these backgrounds from the hard disk. And I'm actually loading them down into an area called the layout table, okay, which is indicated down there. And if I just click away, how do I actually get into the layout table? Well, again, with a click of my new handheld controller or a press of the load box, you can see that is the layout table, and there they are all brought down. This is an area of machine accessible from the painting menu, and you can see I can just scroll these around, and those are the backgrounds down. So let's now go and look at the late breaking stories for today's newspapers. And again, in the interests of housekeeping, I'm just going to color code these, and we can fetch them down again from the hard disk onto the table. There's one more element that I need, which is an associated stencil. So I've made one trip into the library, as you can see here, and fetched all the elements that I need to start the business of graphics production. There's the stencil, and there's the background. So how do I actually get an image from the table onto the Paintbox? Well, I simply can load it down by pointing at it, and it comes down very quickly. Let's also load the associated stencil. There it is. And now, of course, I need to also fetch one of the grabs that go in here. Just to spread these out so we can see them. You'll notice that they're now titled as well in the heading. So if we go into cut and paste, automatically the system knows that the next image is going to be a cutout, and there it is on the end of the pen. And look at the speed with which I can actually resize this. Very, very fast. Again, I can change the angle, the rotation, all these sorts of things. So the whole thing is very, very fast and interactive. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that stencil, just show it for you there, and use it to position this underneath the header. Simply stick it down, and there's my first graphic complete. And again, in the interests of good housekeeping, if we just color code these all with a red, so you'll be able to see at a glance, there is my first completed graphic on the table there. Okay, so we've done one there. Let's actually go now and have a look at a few more of these. Again, if I can load the picture of the USA Today and the associated background that goes with it, stick it down, and there's a second one completed. Let's try another one. We'll do the Le Monde newspaper there, a local paper for Montreaux, or more local, and the associated background that goes with that. We stick it in place and again save it in the background. And you can imagine, in a production situation, you could work up a fair degree of pace on something like that. And if we stick this down, save it away, you can see very quickly in the time it's taken me to tell you what I'm doing. I've already created a number of graphics for this morning program, and we'll perhaps take one more down, load it in place, stick it down, save it away, and there you can see my first 5 graphics for this this hypothetical news program. So what we'll do is we'll just tidy these up a little bit by colour, because we're getting a little bit messy on the layout table. And there at a glance you can see it also colour codes those for me, colour sorts them. These are the 5 that I've just produced. You can see them there. And of course I don't need these anymore. Now the red ones, the ones on the right there, are actually already saved on the disk automatically. They can be auto-titled, and of course using the fast new PictureNet Plus can be sent directly out onto air. Well, what we're going to do is we're just going to put them to one side for a moment, come back to them in just a little bit later, and turn our attention to another aspect of broadcasters' output. What do broadcasters do most? What do they produce most of? Of course the answer is news graphics. Lots and lots of news graphics, usually done under immense pressure and to a deadline, into a fixed corporate identity like this one. There's a 3 window from the BBC World Service, again a phone in. There's a 4 window, a single window. So let's first of all load our corporate identity, if you like, down onto the layout table, and we fetch that down, and you can see them there. And we'll just spread those out a little bit. And now go and turn our attention, as I said, to some of the late-breaking stories for today's news. And again, we'll colour code these. So we'll start with Bill Clinton and Boris Yeltsin, and we'll also take the stories from around the world that we have in today. And again, we've got a very good library management system, so I can go and search for these by category or by title. A story breaking on the US economy, so we'll take actually a picture of Chicago, the US flag. We've already got Bill Clinton. We'll take the dark sky. Okay, well that gives me enough to be going on with, and there they are all down on the layout table. Right, so let's start with the 2 window. If I just call that down, it comes complete with its mask. And again, if I go into cut and paste, we'll fetch down the picture of Bill Clinton here, and automatically he's down there in the window. And of course I've only had to go to the library once, fetch all the elements, and now I'm straight into production. So it's a very, very fast, very productive system, as you can see. We'll take Boris Yeltsin, we can move him over to the left-hand side of this picture, this composition, flip him round, for example, stick him, and I've created my first graphic. And there it is. And in fact, what we'll do is we'll also colour code these. So again, if I pick up a green, we'll put that in the box, and these finished ones will all be green. Okay, let's go back now and look at perhaps something a little bit more complex, the 4-way window. Again, if I load those down, complete with the stencil. And we're going to go and get the first of our graphics to go in this, which is perhaps the one of Sweden up here. So again, if I load it down, automatically, as you can see, it's a cutout. We just size that a little bit. And now I'm going to use a function known as collage, or multiple cutouts, whereby I can actually load a group of these. And watch this. All 3 will come down on top of that one of Sweden, and they all come down onto the screen at the same time. So what does this mean? Well, this means actually flexibility, the ability to go in and edit these cutouts at the last moment, right up to, in fact, the transmission time almost. You can see again as if the producer comes around and says, well, actually, we're going to run the story on Thailand first. We want to drop that one down to the bottom right-hand corner. I can do this. I'm working there with 4 cutouts on the screen. This could, of course, be up to 99 layers, all interactively editable. So phenomenal power there from the Quantel hardware in the form of Paintbox Express. Okay, that's the second graphic completed. You can see them there. Let's try something now a little bit more creative. If we load down this picture of Chicago, well, as you can see, it's not a bad image here, but it could be improved perhaps if I wanted to do something with the sky. And to put a new sky in, it would first involve me making a mask of the skyline. So I can pick up a brush and start drawing around here. But of course, this is news. And one doesn't have the luxury of drawing masks like this in news. By the time I finish drawing that skyline, the story would probably have already broken. So let's remind ourselves, news graphics is all about fast productivity, and Paintbox Express gives you those tools. And here in the format of a chroma keyer, and you can see I can actually, based on the brightness and the colour in the picture, make a very quick key. Now you may be thinking that there's the familiar red stencil. Let's actually pick it up and actually do a red key. In fact, we'll just change the colour of the mask there so you can see that a bit better. Okay, we can change the mask colour so I can see exactly what's going on. And again, we can just tap down and look instantly. I've got a very, very good key of the skyline here. Again, I don't have to worry about keyer setups. Not an engineer, I'm a designer. And again, I can put a bit of softness in there, and there's a perfectly generated mask of that skyline. If I'm happy with that, we simply say, yes, I like it. I'll show it you as a high contrast. And one or two areas just need tidying up, not a problem. Again, we can just go in there with a brush, and we can just tidy those away. So again, if I go into my cut and paste menu, And we'll just call down the sky now, and automatically that comes down as a cutout into the background, bring it back to its original state, and there we have a picture I'm sure that any photo library would be happy to have in their collection. And again, all your news graphics can have this sort of value-added look, of course, now, because these things are so quick to produce. In fact, I've produced that graphic ahead of time, so why don't we try something a little bit more complex. Perhaps let's take down Bill Clinton here, just picking it up again as a cutout. And what we'll do here is we'll attempt to put him onto the face of that building. So again, in my 3D menu, I've got control of the size, and watch this, also of the spin, and look how fast this is. Okay, I'm moving the pen around on the tablet, and as soon as I take the pen away, instantly it's there in position. There's no update time at all. And again, we can move the position. We may actually use the spin to get him on the front of the building. A rather more easier way to do that might be to use a function called corner pinning. And again, you're about to see the awesome power of Quantel hardware. I simply, in real time, pick up the corners and just drag them to where I want them to be. And it really could not be easier. Look at that. And there he is sitting on the front of the building. Very, very impressive stuff. Now, of course, I can change the percentage of this if I want to have a little bit of see-through. In fact, some of you may have noticed that that building is in fact curved. As you can see, the profile of the building is a curved front. How would I deal with that? Well, again, if I go into Contour and use the picture bender, and I'll exaggerate this slightly. Again, if I just pick up a point, in real time, I can drag that around, and you can see there I'm actually bending that picture, and we'll pick up the bottom one and drag it through there. Absolutely phenomenal. As you can see, it all happens in real time. There's no waiting for a designer. They can just try these things out, and instantly you can see the result you're going to get. And you can see we've got wrap, turn, and ripple functions as well. So once I'm happy with that, again, I can just bring everything back to its original state for a moment. There it is, curved on the profile of that building. I can, of course, if I wanted to see a little bit more through there, is switch on the restore function. Now, restore enables me to, for example, pick up the previous stage, the original building, and then just using the airbrush, take a slightly larger size here, we can just dust away some of the original building and reveal that through. And there you can see we've got a sort of transparency on his face. Very fast and very convincing. And in fact, any picture on the layout table can be restored back to. Let's actually pick up the flag, for example. And now I've got that on the end of the pen. So a really stunning, and you can see why this is the designer's choice, a stunning sort of piece of hardware that allows me to just produce these results in no time at all, as you can see. And again, if I want to just go back a little bit the other way, if I've gone too far, we can pick up Chicago again and bring that back through. So you can see why it is the designer's system of choice. It offers unparalleled creativity. We are, of course, as I said, producing news graphics. So again, we'll go back into our cut and paste area. We'll cut the whole thing out, load up our news background. There it is. Switch on the stencil, and there we have another winning news graphic from the Paintbox Express, done there in front of your very eyes. Okay, once again, we'll stick it, save it away, and turn our attention to some of the other new features offered by the Paintbox. And there's the latest of those graphics. So again, if I do a tidy by color, we'll pull out the green ones, the ones that we've just created. We can get rid of the kit of parts now, and also we can get rid of some of the grabs that we've done today. So those are my 3 news graphics, and again, I'm just going to hide them away. We'll come back to those a little bit later in the presentation. So what else is new on Paintbox Express? Well, we've done a couple of graphics a little bit earlier, which perhaps will give me the chance to show you some of these things. If I start off with a graphic which we produced for social stereotypes, and of course we need a strong typography package in the Paintbox to produce this sort of graphic, and indeed we do have a lot of changes on the type. Also this one here for the forthcoming presidential elections, so we've used the theme of tarot cards, and again you'll see here that that is actually rather more complex than it looks at first sight. There's a number of cutouts on here. So what we're going to do is to fetch some of these elements down onto our layout table, and again we can color code these. We'll take those 2 for reference on our background, and now we're actually going to take down the 7 cutouts that we used to make that graphic. And again, if I show you that on the layout table, there they are. Right, and we'll also pick up the background and a couple of the things. And let's actually first of all consider the one with the type in it. Okay, well, those of you that know type on Paintbox, we have, of course, a good typography capability. Let me first of all start by going into my text area. And great news here on Paintbox. Every Paintbox comes standard with well over 1,000 typefaces delivered. Okay, they're all installed when you get them. There's no more licensing or anything to do. Basically, you can get 1,000 plus typefaces instantly online. So let's actually compose a line of text here. If I just wipe this away, and we'll start with, let's actually start with black on white. We go into our paste step menu here, and if I just put in a line of text, and you can see this is Swiss black outline. Again, I can go into any of these different fonts, and you can see very quickly we can change the typeface. And we can also take the size up, and here we are, look, vector fonts, so the quality is maintained whatever size you require them. Again, if I go up to full screen characters, you can see the text is absolutely perfect quality. Again, if I take it up to 600 lines, again, look at these curves, all perfectly ripped and anti-aliased at the size we require. Okay, if we take the size down then just a little bit, we'll take it up and we'll use that typeface for the T. We'll start with that line of text here. If we just enlarge it slightly, and we'll use that typeface for the T, hit the return carriage, and actually we'll start in a white, and we'll just also load up our background and recreate this graphic for you. Okay, so we'll be using collage and paste styles, so let's actually use a different typeface for the Y. Try that Windsor, yes, that's nice. As I said, we want to use collage for this, so we'll just go back and we'll go back and compose the T again. First T on there, and we've got two of those cutouts on the screen. So if I now go back and choose a different face again for the Y, the P, okay, something much lighter as you can see there, we'll use that. Yet another face perhaps for the E. Let's try something like that. Again, I can browse those typefaces if I require, and also finally something different again for the S. Let's take up the Serifa. Okay, so they all come back down as a group of cutouts onto the screen, as you can see here. And of course now I can use the fact that we have collage to just start to move those around. So we'll put the Y over here, obviously, and the P down here, for example. And of course we can actually use some of the paste styles to actually differentiate some of these. We'll put the S at the end there. Okay, what should we do here then? Well, if we take the T perhaps and drop down the transparency. And maybe we'll take the Y, for example, and put that in a different color. Let's actually pick something off the mixing palette. So you pick up the sort of magenta-y color there. We take something a little bit lighter. And if we go to the P, perhaps we can make this stand out a little bit more with a drop shadow. Again, here in just a burgundy color, and again, I can change the surface of that, so it gets a bit more vibrancy. Let's try something different again with the E. Perhaps again we can pick up a different color, something a bit more pastel-y with a drop shadow, and again I can change the direction of that. And obviously with the paste styles we've got emboss, so again we can emboss that out of there. And of course I can change the priority of these, and a reminder, of course, I can have up to 99 cutouts. Okay, well we'll save that temporarily to one side, onto the table again. So there's that one created, and turn our attention to this one, which actually is a little bit more complex than it may at first look. There are a number of cutouts obviously on the background there. So once again, if I pick up my blank background first of all, we'll go away and delete these cutouts off, and go into 3D for a moment, which will enable me to pick up initially the first of those 7 cutouts, which is the ones of the tarot card. Okay, and it comes down onto the screen as a cutout, and we'll just move it around and move the position of the axis slightly. And then again, using the collage function, I can load the rest of those cutouts, and you'll see them come down as a group, one on top of another, and you can see them come down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now we can go in and start spinning these around, and again I've moved the axes so they're spinning about the bottom left hand corner. And again, just with the pen and tablet, just spinning them around. Again, I don't need a complicated user interface. As I said, I'm a graphic designer, and you can see the way in which this really does allow me to produce the goods very, very quickly. Each one of these cutouts is independently editable, which, if you think about that in hardware terms, is very, very sophisticated, because again, you can see it's very easy to control them. I don't need to go in there and do lots of different setups for each one. I just point and turn them around. Now, to give a bit of depth to this graphic, again, we can maybe change the style. Let's start with the top one, then we'll put a drop shadow on here, perhaps. Change the length and the direction of the shadow. And once I'm happy with that, I can actually go around this pack and apply the same shadow to each one in turn. So 7 cutouts, They're all independently editable in terms of size and position, and of course in terms of the paste style that they have. And here we've given a drop shadow on each, and really it is point and press, very, very simple. Now you may remember that some of the, they were actually in the original graphic, they were actually rotated. And again here, if I just pick up the global spin, I can spin all 7 cutouts on the end of the pen as a group, which is very powerful indeed. Again, if I move the position over to the right, okay, we spin them perhaps a little bit more on the x-axis. And again, very, very intuitive, very easy, phenomenal processing. Again, this is the power of Quantel hardware. And again, if I want to pick out one of those cards, I can just tap down on it and move it off in 3D space. It knows where it is. As you can see, it retains the same perspective as the rest. And again, we can just slide one of those cards out very easily. We'll take the chariot one there. Okay, so very, very powerful hardware which enables me to do that. Of course, it's hardware by Quantel, and you're seeing it here on the stand in Paintbox Express. So once we've stuck those down, again, I can save that away, and we'll just delete all of those away, and we'll just get rid of our little shadow here if I go back into 2D. Okay, so if we just review what we've been doing, again, there's the graphic that I've just completed. There's the type one. Remember, 1,085 faces online. And let's actually go and delete some of these stages that we don't need anymore, and turn our attention to another aspect of a broadcaster's output, that required by the sports department. And again, if I just hide these away, we'll come back to them a little later on. The sports department, again, they have a busy requirement for graphics. Let's go and actually see some of the sorts of things that they get up to. Again, if I search under the category sport, we can see here again BBC World Service produce a lot of sports graphics. One thing you can say is they keep things nice and simple here. If I just call down a graphic into cut and paste, and you can see there it's a generic background, as you can see, with say a little bit of text dropped on by a caption and the picture put into the inset there. So what we're going to do is to produce some of these, but of course they're often produced under great pressure to a great deadline. Let's see how many of these we can produce in a very short space of time. If I initially take the background down onto the table and go and find our first sports story of the day, which is this one of the motor racing story. And what we'll do here is to fetch it down and go into our cut and paste, which is now I've just made it into a cutout by using the cut. And then we'll actually load up the background and use the stencil. So we can take the size down perhaps a little bit, do as they do, which is to maybe crush it a little bit, and you can see more of the image. Position it roughly where we want it, stick it down, and save it onto the table. And again, I'll just color code these so you can see them as they come up. So we save the first one, and there it is. Okay, so if I had a whole load of these to do, you can imagine that we might want some automated way of doing this. Let's actually do another one by hand. For example, if we take it down, remembers where it is from the last cutout. So again, everything's quite quick to produce, and we can actually save that away. But as I said, an automated way of doing this sort of process would be very useful. And macros offer me just that. Easiest way to do it is to just to record one and show you exactly what I'm doing. If I go in and we actually select the next one, and go into our cut and paste, cut the whole thing out for a moment. Again, we can load up the associated background. There it is, stick it in place, save it away, and in fact what I've done there is to record hand movement. We'll just again stop the recording, done by the keyboard in fact, and let's actually replay that now and see what I've actually done. So again, it goes in, fetches the next story, cuts it out, sticks it down, and saves it away, and in fact tells me then that the macro has finished. If I go into my macro, you can actually see a listing of all of those box movements. So I went into the library, I went down one. In fact, I went down one twice. I didn't mean to do that. So again, I can go in very easily and just delete that one. If I wanted to, for example, insert a pause in here, maybe after the cut and paste, which I wanted to put some text in there, for example, save doing it on the caption, I could do. And let's see how that one looks. So again, if I ask the macro to do that, goes into cut and paste, gets the generic background, cuts it out, sticks it down, and then tells me that it's paused. So at this stage, of course, I could go into typography and then get it to carry on and go and save that away. Well, actually, I don't want to pause that, so I'll actually delete the pause there. And what we'll do is we'll carry on with that macro and see how many of these we can do. Once again, into the library, gets the background, sticks it in place, and then does that. And of course, macros are a great productivity bonus for anybody doing this sort of thing, because obviously one could loop it round. If you had an awful lot to do, you could loop this around. Of course, different macros can be saved in the library and assigned to different departments. So the newspaper people could have theirs, and you might have another one for making news graphics, you might have another one for making weather graphics, and so on and so forth. So a huge productivity bonus, macros here on Paintbox Express. Okay, that's probably enough of the sports graphics. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll delete that cutout that we don't need anymore, and also delete the background, and actually go and look at some of the graphics that we've been producing in the last 25 minutes or so, if I just unhide those. Now, as you can see, those are all my sports graphics on the layout table there, which you can spread around. Also, for those of you that were here at the beginning, you may remember we produced some graphics for the morning papers. Here they are. Again, if I just pull those around, you can see them. And also there was the generic background that we've been using. The news graphics, again, there was the 4 window and also the 2 window. And this rather more complex and creative graphic there with the restore of the flag and Clinton's face on this building with a new sky put in. Also, again, remember the typography graphic, 1,085 typefaces online now. And also that one with the multiple cutouts, perspective and global distortion. So I've been talking for around about 20 minutes or so. I count around about 20 graphics on the screen. That's about a graphic a minute. And as I said, they weren't all quite straightforward and simple graphics. Some of them were a little bit more complex. 20 graphics in 20 minutes. That is stunning productivity. As you look around the halls of Montreaux at other systems, I can guarantee you won't see anything that offers the same speed as the Paintbox, the same productivity, and of course the versatility. We've been working here in a broadcast environment. It works, of course, very widely in post-production environments as well. It's a very creative system. Again, that graphic there, obviously I used a lot of the creative aspects of the system. And of course the quality is CCIR 601, unmatched. So you won't see better productivity and return on investment than the all-new high-speed Paintbox Express, shown here in Europe for the first time at Montreaux.